Yes, this is John G. Sutton. Welcome to Tales from the Jails. And today I'm going to talk about a topic that's close to all your hearts, I'm certain it is: the corruption of prison officers. I know people talk nowadays about jailers taking drugs in. There was, as far as I know, I didn't see any of that when I was there, but there was corruption. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal experiences. I was the officer in control of E4 landing at Strangeways. That's E wing, the fourth landing up the top. I was the officer in charge of E4 landing on this particular occasion, and the the red band who was on the landing hadn't been appointed by me, been appointed by somebody else before I came onto the landing. So on this particular day, the red band for the cleaners approached me. He was a great big fella who had been. He was in for violence, and he was a great big lad, and he worked on the doors in the clubs, specifically in Blackpool. And he came to me as the officer in charge of that and said, "Hey boss," said, "can you get me this prisoner to be my cellmate, my assistant?" I said, "No." I said, "I'll have a look and decide who's going to be assisting any cleaners on the landing." I said, "And the suggestion has been noted, but immediately the answer to mind is no." So now, if you don't mind, just get on with your duties, go and clean the landings. It was a good job for a prisoner being a red band, because it meant, you had a little degree of freedom up and down the landing and this, that and the other. And personally, I wouldn't have appointed a big thug like that as a red band. No, I wouldn't. Get somebody who will not question authority, somebody who will do what they're told and can do it, without starting to make ridiculous requests. So I'd said to this guy no, and he said, "Bah, but boss," he said, if you do this, get this guy into my cell for me as my assistant." He said, "I'll do something for you." I said, "Do something for me? Oh, really? Yeah. I'm working here from 7 o'clock in the morning till 5:30 at night. What are you going to do for me?" He said, "All you got to do is go to this club in Blackpool and mention my name. Tell them I've sent you." He said, "You'll get taken in. They'll give you anything you want to drink, look after you, absolutely." He said, there's prostitutes there, there's women. So you help yourself." He said, "To get you something to eat, they'll absolutely look after you. All you've got to do is get me the guy I want in my cell." I said, "It sounds a bit dangerous to me." I said, "I mean, it's a highly attractive proposition, to do this." I said, "But it can't be safe. I mean, what happens if somebody finds out?" You know what he said? He said, "Nobody's going to find out, boss." He said, "There's loads of staff here done me favours, and I've sent them there. There's never been any repercussions." That sounds all right. I said, "Who's done this then?" So he gave me a list of about 4 or 5, some quite senior prison officers that had partaken of favours from him at this particular nightclub in Blackpool. So I said, "Well, just let me think about it for an hour." I said, "And I'll come back to you and I'll make a decision." So I went to see these 4 senior prison officers. I think one was a principal officer, there was a couple of senior officers, and another long-serving jailer. And I went to see him and I said, "I've just had a report from one of the inmates that he's been providing you with services and sending you to nightclubs in Blackpool where you were given prostitutes and all that." I said, "I personally, I don't believe him." I said, "But what I'm about to do is to make a written statement to the governor, and I'm just telling you in advance that I'm going to put this statement in, and it's now about 2 o'clock in the afternoon." I says, "By 3 o'clock, my statement will be on the desk of the governor." I said, "So if you've got any thoughts about this, I mean, if this man is maligning you in any way or whatever it is you've got to do, then do it. Now, I went to see each one of them and told them the same thing. Then I went away to an office and I sat down and I wrote a statement. And one of the officers, when I told him this, he started running round in circles, running round. You can't do that. You can't do that. I said, listen, I'm making no comment as to whether or not this is right or not. I don't know, do I? All I know is that this inmate has attempted to corrupt me. He's offering me bribes, and he's basically got to be dealt with. I said, and I am going to deal with him in the correct manner. That is to report this to the chief officer and the governor, and to get this man moved into a more secure location. So I went to see. I wrote it all out, exactly what had been said. Took it into the chief officer, number one chief officer. If you've seen images of Strangeways, well, it's the rotunda. Yeah, right in the middle of the thing. There was an office just off the main rotunda, and that was the chief's office. And I went in there, gave him my statement, which I'd written down, signed, dated, true to the best of my knowledge, and all the rest of it, with a copy for the governor as well, and a copy for me. So I gave this to the chief officer. He read through it. He said, "Who's told you to do this?" The same script, Nobody's told me to do this. This is my job. It's what I do for a living, Prison officer, reports, deal with it. Put this man on a charge if you want. I'll deal with it. I'm bringing it to you so you can make a decision. He says, my decision is that you get back to your duties, Mr. Sutton. So, what can one do? I went back to my duties, continued locking the things up, went off duty next morning. The red band on the landing's gone. He'd been shifted, moved. They took him from Strangeways prison to the open prison at Kirkham, which was just about 10 miles from Blackpool. Who got bunged for that, eh? Anyway, that was one instance, but they weren't bribing me, I'm telling you. The staff that I warned, they treated me with a great deal of circumspection after that. But anyway, that's just one instance, yeah. Another instance, some time later, I think it was about 1979, 1980, I went on to the young offenders wing. That's prisoners under the age of 21, between 18 and 21. They call it the YP, Young Prisoners Unit, And I saw there a prisoner, an adult male prisoner, who was acting as the red band for the entire unit, And I knew that this man was aged approximately 35, it might have been 40, and I recognised him, and I said to him, pack your gear, put your stuff together, you're moving. He said, I'm not moving. He said, I'm the red band in looking after the landings. I said, you're moving right now, get your gear packed. He said, you can't do that. He said, I've been put here by principal officer such and such a thing. I said, no. I said, when I tell you that you're going to move landings, you're moving landings from the YP wing back into the adult male section of the prison, which is where you should be in the first place. I said, and as for principal officer, whoever it is putting you there, he has got no authority to do that. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the governor himself. He has no authority to do that, because we're operating here under the Prison Act of 1953, which makes it a criminal offence for any adult male prisoner to be in the same accommodation as a young prisoner, that is an inmate under the age of 21. You're well over the age of 21, now pack your gear, we're moving. So he packed his gear, I wasn't joking. If need be, I would have got a team and dragged him out of there down to the block, but I didn't need to. He packed his gear and I let him off and relocated him, went into the central office and changed his number. And as I was doing so, the principal officer in charge of the YP wing came in. Mr. Sutton, what do you think you're doing here? I said, I'm complying with the rules and regulations. What are you doing? He said, I am the principal officer in charge of the young offenders wing. He said, and that is my red band you've moved. I said, it's an offence under the Prison Act of 1953 to allow an adult male prisoner to associate or to be accommodated in the same accommodation, the same cellular accommodation as any inmate under the age of 21. I said, to do that is an offence. I said, no, I have moved him, I've corrected your mistake. Now, if it repeats, I won't be approaching you, I won't be approaching the chief officer or the governor, because it's quite obvious that you think you're above all this. I said, what I will be doing is approaching the police, because it's a criminal offence. Now, principal officer, do your duty, and I will do mine. I subsequently found out that this inmate that I'd moved was a raving homosexual from Liverpool who was a very serious, wealthy and well-connected drug dealer who had been dealing in drugs to the tune of millions of pounds. Personally, I didn't care because I wasn't getting any of it. I didn't want any of it. I don't want no criminal associations like that. My associations with criminals involved me with key, big hat and a cell. I'm happy with that. Or I was at the time. Obviously, certain principal officer wasn't. Anyway, that's today's tale from the jail. Happy days.